When it comes to video games, there are plenty of different genres to choose from. But open world games are some of the most popular because, well, the opportunities are often endless. You can do pretty much anything you want in them at your own pace, and that is part of what has always allowed certain open world games to separate themselves from the pack, and establish themselves as not just some of the best open world games of all time, but some of the best video games of all time, period. So let's take a look at some of the best video games in the open world genre. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an absolute masterpiece of a game, and many people would go as far as to say it's one of the best games of all time, similar to how the general population felt about Ocarina of Time. Nintendo decided to change things up for their first Legend of Zelda game on the Nintendo Switch, and they absolutely nailed it. The open-world gameplay is just so dang good. There's tons of quests to do all around the world, and we're not just talking about collecting those 900 Korok seeds. After a few hits and misses with the previous Legend of Zelda games, Breath of the Wild could easily be considered the best game Nintendo has ever produced, partly due to its perfected mechanics that make combat feel so smooth, and partly because of the dungeons. The shrine puzzles and divine beast puzzles were very thought-provoking, and weren't always straightforward and easy. On top of all of that, the DLC has added so much to the game that it's ridiculously easy to get lost in the over 100 hours of content. Skyrim is a game that has withstood the test of time, because despite being released all the way back in 2011, it's still being played by tons of gamers today, and has been re-released more than a couple times. Sure, the combat's a bit clunky and leaves a lot to be desired, but other than that, and a few glitches here and there, the game is incredible. Your journey as the Dragonborn, Fusro dying foes left and right is great, even if it doesn't make much sense if you're playing as any race other than a Nord. Quests aren't always typical fetch quests either, as many force you to intimidate people, sneak around, or dive into ancient Nordic ruins. There are also many different factions you could join that each have unique stories. The RPG elements like skill trees and classes are so simple and intuitive. There are no preordained classes, so you could be whatever you want in Skyrim, and that alone is most of the fun. The Witcher 3 is another open-world game that's held in very high regard. Again, just like Skyrim, it doesn't have the smoothest combat system, although Witcher 3's combat is certainly better, and it also has some technical hiccups here and there. But still, its RPG elements and story are some of the best we've ever seen in any video game. The cast of characters is very unique and interesting. Everyone has a role to play in the story, and you eventually feel some kind of way about all of them, making everything that happens to them that much more interesting. The quests are very well done, and most feel like their own little short stories, sometimes even overshadowing the main quest. As for the main quest, it does a good job of adding more character to Geralt as it goes along. The customization and upgrade system really gives us a sense of progression and gets harder as the game goes on. If you love RPG games and you love huge open worlds, doesn't get much better than The Witcher 3. Say what you want about GTA 5, but you can't deny how incredibly successful the game has been. This title has been re-released more than Skyrim, as it's going to be playable on 3 generations of gaming. That's one heck of an achievement. What we love the most about Grand Theft Auto 5 is that you could do almost anything in the game. Race around the streets of Los Santos? Check. Fly a jet? Yeah. Play tennis? Oh yeah. Go on a rampage? You know it. As you can see, there's almost nothing you can't do in this game. Plus, the main story is a hilarious thrill ride, where we see our main 3 characters do business together before it eventually all goes wrong. The whole multiple main characters thing is still pretty revolutionary to this day, as not many games have done something quite like it. Oh, and speaking of revolutionary, GTA Online has to be one of the best multiplayers we've ever seen for an open world game. Just like the actual game, there's so much to do, and it's highly addictive as it's still getting consistent free updates to this day. Minecraft is the ultimate sandbox game. While we said you could do anything you want in GTA 5, it's technically not completely true because you can't do literally anything you want. But in Minecraft, you most certainly can, baby. If one day you find your creative juices to be flowing exceptionally hard, you could go into creative mode and build whatever you want. It could be a city, a castle, or just a simple little house. If you want to experience something different, you could go into survival mode where you have to gather your own resources and eat to stay alive. Everything you earn in this mode feels more rewarding because you actually had to go out into the world and find it yourself, instead of simply going through some menus. And if the standard game modes aren't enough for you, don't worry. free because there are plenty of online servers hosting a bunch of unique games like the Minecraft Hunger Games or a Minecraft version of Prop Hunt. Minecraft is definitely one of the most influential games of the 2010s, and that's not even up for debate. Unlike Dutch, Rockstar actually had a plan, and that plan was to make Red Dead Redemption 2 one of the most well-rounded, open-world, rootinest-tootinest games in the Wild Wild West. There's almost nothing negative you could say about Red Dead Redemption 2. It is undoubtedly Rockstar's masterpiece. And while its online mode does pale in comparison to GTA 5's, its single-player story is so much better. You grow to learn so much about Arthur and every member of the Vanderland gang. You realize why they're all together and start to form an opinion about each of them, which will often change as the story goes along. Every time you think you know what's going to happen next, you get a curveball, and it's not just there for no reason. It makes sense and keeps the story driving forward. The combat in the game is solid and very much like GTA 5, but what really sets Red Dead Redemption 2 apart from others is its attention to detail. This game constantly surprises the player. Just when we think we've seen it all, we'll notice two animals duking it out or how detailed Arthur's tracks in the snow are. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna take a break and go play Red Dead right now. I'll be right back. Horizon Zero Dawn may very well be the best PS4 exclusive out there, and it was so good that we can't wait for Horizon Forbidden West on PS5. While we already talked about how amazing the attention to detail in Red Dead Redemption 2 is, the same could be said for Horizon Zero Dawn, which is very impressive considering it's Guerrilla's first IP since Killzone. The mechanical creatures just look incredible, and there are so many ways to take them out. You could stay hidden using a bow and arrow, or you could jump in head first with a spear. We also just love how beautiful the world is and the effects of walking in grass and snow. The realism of the game helps immerse the players into it, and so does the story. Aloy's character development throughout the main quest is incredible, and we end up learning a lot about what happened to the world through her. There's so much to discover in Horizon Zero Dawn, and that sense of mystery just keeps us reading every audio log and journal that we stumble across, something that not all games manage to pull off. Konami is just really good at this whole video game thing because Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is a masterpiece. We've only called a few games a masterpiece so far in this video, and we have meant it every single time. We just love how there are so many different ways to go about missions. It allows us to create our own memorable moments without being punished for not using stealth. If anything, it actually rewards your creativity. In other Metal Gear games, you're often forced to use stealth, but not in Metal Gear Solid 5, which is one of the reasons why we love it so dang much. Open world games thrive on freedom, and that's exactly what we got with The Phantom Pain. The gameplay is impeccable, and the story is solid. The character development is meaningful, and everybody feels like they have a role to play in the story, which is the biggest sign of brilliant storytelling. Sure, that story could get a bit convoluted at times, but it's a Metal Gear Solid game, so we've come to expect that from Kojima by now. Fallout is such a good series that it was hard to pick just one game from it to include in this video. But if we can only pick one, we would have to go with Fallout New Vegas. That being said, it's a Bethesda game, and one from 2010 no less, so of course it has its fair share of bugs, glitches, and clunkiness. Still, it was a major improvement over Fallout 3 in terms of the story and quests. The game isn't going to wow anybody with its graphics or combat, but the Mojave Desert setting just captures the essence of a post-apocalyptic world, and this story, with all of its factions to choose from, is just plain enthralling from start to finish. Fallout New Vegas' huge world, expansive quests, and hidden secrets give the game so much replay value that we somehow keep coming back to it, even an entire decade after its release. It may not have aged very well, but Fallout New Vegas is an open-world gem and deserves a re-release on next-gen consoles. Yeah, we know Cyberpunk 2077 isn't even out yet, so why is it in a video about the greatest open-world games of all time? That's a valid question, but we feel like including it here just because it has the potential to be one of the best games ever. For starters, it's developed by CD Projekt Red, the same studio behind The Witcher 3, so right from the get-go, expectations were sky high. In the game, you play as a mercenary known as V, who could be given a name and be either male or female. We love that customization. We also expected to have similar RPG elements to The Witcher 3, so multiple skill trees to develop V's abilities. The setting, Night City, looks so alive and is set during a time of unrest where people are kind of doing whatever they want with no repercussions due to a lack of any kind of government. We feel like the unique setting could make Cyberpunk 2077 one of the most immersive games yet, and we just can't wait to get our hands on it later this year. And those are some of the best open-world games of all time. Do you agree with this list? Are there some games that we might have missed? Do you think Cyberpunk 2077 could potentially be the best open-world game ever? Let us know in the comments section down below, and please don't forget to subscribe to The Gamer for more gaming videos. As always, thanks so much for watching.